get that simple model up there for Carmen or anybody else who wants to take a screen cap of it. Then I will go down here. Not going to read the disclaimer for the third deal either. All right, what's this deal all about? You hear the dog barking in the background. The dog's sitting this morning. Dusty's running around his madman ways. I guess he's upstairs. You might not be able to hear him. All right, what's this deal all about? Your orthopedic clinics, 3 sites. That's what the business is. Do you want to own an orthopedic clinic? In fact, you want to own 3 of them. This is the business you're going to want to buy. They offer both surgical and non-surgical treatment. The surgical treatment's about what you expect at an orthopedic clinic. Arthroscopy, joint replacement, foot and ankle type conditions. I think joint replacement is a lot of what they do. They do non-surgical stuff as well. It seems like it's mostly injection related based on the list. Cortisone injections, steroid injections, platelet-rich plasma injections, do some stem cell therapy, and do some nerve conduction studies as well. The seller is located in the U.S. East Coast region, populous area, but competition is pretty stiff. Ask price is really interesting in this deal. We take a look at 1.75. We look on the right-hand side and take a look at what the adjusted EBITDA is. We're thinking, hey, what's going on here? But we'll get to that. Property is optionally available, but not included in the ask price. What's the ownership story? The ownership story is that this business was founded in 2002 by Dr. Craig, who was a board-certified and licensed surgeon. Now, he is the only physician involved in this enterprise. There's obviously other health professionals there that assist him, physical therapy, chiropractor, physician assistants. There's other people around, but he's the guy in charge. He's the guy that's overseeing it. And, to do that, I think you need to be board certified. He is, but he's the only game in town in terms of, the medical side of it, in terms of the decision-making and wants a party, which is why his motivation for sale is to reduce stress. And when you look at this operation, you think, yeah, this would be a pretty stressful place to own, manage, work. But, and this is, I guess, really key for a surgeon, he's also experiencing health issues that are impacting his ability to perform surgery. And the next bullet says, and this didn't come up when I talked to Anil, when I talked to him a couple times about this deal, and, I just didn't get to that level of detail, and it was a bit of a passing comment. They appear to have lost some medical liability cases, which I think are directly linked to this idea of reducing the stress. For non-Americans, like the medical system does seem to be quite litigious down there. And so I guess it's, kind of an occupational hazard. When you're practicing medicine, especially in something like a joint replacement, that you're going to have some medical liability issues. Of course, have them anywhere, but they seem to be a little more pronounced there. And he's had to guess some of them, and some of them, it looks like he's lost. So that's probably pretty stressful. He's looking for a clean exit, after the transition or the handover period is good. He's not looking to stick around. He's not looking to put in a little bit of time. He wants a reasonable sort of handover transition period, and then it's out of the clean break. Now, Dr. Craig is working so hard, we need 2 people to replace him. Obviously, you need an orthopedic surgeon, and I guess one has been identified as potentially being brought on board. And also, office managers need to oversee the business. There are 3 clinics. Dr. Craig's already working 60 to 70 hours a week. So, you're not going to replace him with one person. The revenue mix looks like Medicare is paying 40%, Medicaid 30%. They said major medical 20%. I'm assuming major medical means private insurance. And as a non-American, I'm only guessing at that. Liability, I'm assuming, liability insurance. If I'm wrong about that, then I've got a couple of doctors on the who can correct me when we're done. Surgery performed at the clinics only once a month. I wonder what kind of surgery they do at the clinic. Wouldn't be joint replacement. Wouldn't that be a little too involved to be doing it at a clinic? Maybe some arthroscopy, stuff like that. But Dr. Craig does operate twice a week at the hospital. Obviously a better situation doing there. Business is operating at capacity. No additional patients could be seen unless a physician is added. Yeah, so 70 hours a week. Dr. Craig, no more patients. They do get some hospital referrals when Dr. Craig is on call. Otherwise, referrals are from local doctors' offices. And some patients just kind of call in or walk in. They did have a full-time marketer that was eliminated this year and did not seem to have any real effect on the business. Balance sheet was prepared on a cash basis. And this is something that Nilo and I did not talk about because I hadn't been at that level of scrutiny. They do have accounts receivable. It doesn't show up because it's a cash balance sheet. And they have a significant collection problem associated. Most of it that was buried in some notes that I took the trouble of reading. I was prepping for this deal last night. Over $5 million, I think. But we would really need to get to the bottom of what's going on in the accounts receivable. I think a lot of it has to do with these Medicare and Medicaid accounts. I don't know what it is that gets you in arrears. Obviously maybe something on your side they don't like, and paying. Not really sure, but $5 million, a lot of it having a collection problem associated with it, something we definitely need to get the bottom of. 23 staff members, only one doc, Dr. Craig, he's it. 2 physician assistants or PAs, 3 techs, 3 secretaries, 3 call center personnel, 1 surgery scheduler, 1 chiropractor, 1 physical therapist, etc. Didn't list every single one of them, but you get the general idea. Our website is average, functional. I couldn't really say any more than that. I didn't really have strong feelings about it one way or the other. I'd say the MUD score for Dr. Craig is above average. Motivated to exit. that, he is distressed, he's got physical problems that prevent him from, I guess, comfortably doing surgery. He's still doing it, but I guess it's interfering in some way. So I definitely have the sense that there's some urgency associated with it. But and even when I talked, right, I did not know about this health issue that was preventing him from comfortably doing surgery. I didn't know about the accounts receivable at $5 billion. I didn't know they'd lost some liability cases. And so, Anil and I were talking about different ways we might be able to structure an offer and whether it was going to work, et cetera, et cetera. We look at the balance sheet and we think, how could we finance this thing? There's only 218 in assets. So again, if we could get some cash flow lending on this, we might be in good shape. Anyway, I got some comments on this, but I don't want to do my comments as I don't want to compromise schedule for my comments in kind of as we go or at the tail end. I would like to get some folks involved. Obviously, it'd be nice to hear from one of our physician members. I'm not sure if Natasha is here or not. I didn't check. Let me just see. No, Natasha, not here. I don't remember the name of our second physician. Well, Aniwo himself is a physician trained and trained up in, he was Nigeria, if I remember correctly. Is that right, Aniwo? Yeah. Is that where you're medically trained? Yeah. But I was more interested from the American side, kind of had a little bit more of a sort of a take on the insurance side of this kind of a business, et cetera, et cetera. I can't remember what the second one is, but apparently they're not.
Christopher Botta.
Okay. Neither one are here. Maybe they're in surgery. Looking for the drum roll there, whatever they call it. I want to do this a little differently. I want to kind of ask a few questions to people rather than asking for their green light, red light comment. I want to kind of ask for their input or intake. I like to ask Carl a lot of questions. He gives great answers. But let me kind of do that on this deal. Let me throw a few questions out there. I'm actually going to pick on you specifically. So if you really don't want me to call on you, I guess you could turn your camera off. But if you want to play along, keep your camera on, and let's do it that way. First question I want to put out is, because this is what I'm thinking, could some non-physician buy this business, engage a physician who was a non-owner who had to kind of replicate the kind of efforts that Dr. Craig is putting in, as a non-owner, when a lot of the rewards are accruing to somebody who's the non-physician? In Aniwo's case, he is a physician, but not someone practicing in terms of that jurisdiction. Is that going to be too tough on this deal? Try and get a physician working for you, right, to do all the things that's necessary to keep this. Let me go to Clive. I always love to hear from Clive. Clive, what do you think? Should we talk a doctor into working for us in this system?
Yeah, I mean, through my digital marketing company, we actually work with US audiologists. And so one of the challenges is there's a lot of acquisition in that space right now. And there's a problem there in terms of getting the right person in and getting the right licenses and depending on which state they are. And there's a bundle of complications that I've now come to appreciate working with that sector. So for me, honest with you, I would not touch it because I'm not a physician. So that would be my take on it. You could do it. I'm just saying that it's something that I think is far too risky for somebody that's not.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good take. I'm thinking more like, okay, you got a physician that you got to come in to replace Dr. Craig, who's working 60 to 70 hours a week. The new guy doesn't want to work that hard. We're going to get an op manager who's going to help out on that side of things. But still, 23 people. You're the person of record medically for all of the people.
It's nice, isn't it? As business. I mean, that was one thing that did go in favor for me. That seems to be a referral business as well. So. Obviously reputational risks there because of some of the issues they've had recently is a concern, and obviously he's stressed over that by the sound of it. So I think there's a few things to unpick there. So I certainly wouldn't, you never rule anything out without digging it up with deeper, but I don't know, there's a fair few questions I've had around.
Kind of finish that thought, I'm thinking, well, if I don't have a ton of money to put in, right? Maybe I don't. Yeah, maybe I'm going for max leverage LBO. I'm trying to do this thing as a 100% LBO.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden we got this medical professional in here, right? Maybe he doesn't want to put any money in the business either, but neither is the person who's going to buy it. We're going to try and put in either some kind of generous seller financing type of a structure, and it's something that you and I talked about. We threw around some ideas on doing that. I'm thinking, well, if we did that, wouldn't Dr. Craig just say to the new guy, well, I got somebody who wants to buy the business on this basis. Maybe you could buy it on basis. They weren't planning to put any money into it. You don't necessarily have to put any money into it, but you're going to be running it. You're going to be owning it. You're going to benefit from it. So is that too tough of a competitive situation for Aniwo to invest a lot of time and effort into making it happen? I wasn't entirely sure, but it was certainly one of
which that's fair.
Let me switch gears to another question, which is, and I don't know, I guess you got to have a little bit of medical experience in the U.S. Is the fact that you've lost some liability cases concern here? Or is that just basically the cost of doing business as a medical professional in the U.S.? You are going to have litigation. You are going to potentially have to settle on some of them or maybe lose some of them. And you know what? It's really nothing more than just, cost of doing business that affects, a majority of physicians who practice in the United States. I mean, is that a fair way to look at it? Let me pick on somebody. Let me get Irene in here and get her take on that. What do you think? Irene, can you unmute? And you think that would be an issue?
Can you restate it? I'm sorry. I'm looking at a contract.
Yeah. My question was, how concerned should we be about the fact that they lost a couple of medical liability cases? We just consider it that, hey, listen, when you practice orthopedic medicine in the U.S., you're going to have cases. You're not going to win every one of them. No big deal. Let's move on. Or is this something that we should give pause to?
Yeah, I'm not, this is not my lane, admittedly. I'm a management consultant, but the consultant in me is always looking at ways to indemnify the buyer, right? Like, so how can you fortify, first of all, make sure that there's no overhanging or outstanding fees that are still, that their liability that they're responsible for, number one, right? And number two, I would want to find out from a process perspective what I would want to do some triage, root cause analysis of those liability cases and understand what happened. If there's a common thread in there, like not following procedure or taking on too risk when they took that patient because of their age or their the particular malady that they had, I would just be very, very cautious. Anything there where there's a bad, maybe it's the doctor has poor eyesight. I don't know. And they the knife slipped or something. It's because of the poor performance of the surgeon, right? And they are aging out, then okay, that's one thing. But I would be very cautious and I would really want to do some root cause analysis with those liability cases to understand why, right?
Yeah, what a great point. I mean, that's the kind of answer that, we all should undertake on so many things. Let's take a look at the root causes. Let's not make a top level kind of global conclusion based upon very skimpy type information. Let's go to the root cause and really kind of get into this thing on a, one by one basis if there's more than one cases and see what that root cause is. So yeah. Then the other thing that I'm thinking of is, and let me get David Geralt on to answer this. He's the lawyer. I mean, how much exposure do we have to, potential medical liability cases that haven't been brought forward yet? Are they all going to accrue to Dr. Craig, or are we on the hook for some of that?
Well, I think, John, that's going to be partially an issue of how we structure the deal. This may be one of those that it's a candidate for an asset purchase rather than a stock purchase, so that we potentially don't bring those liabilities with us. The other thing to look at, and this is opportunity for a quick lesson on insurance to bore everyone completely to death. But there's, in professional liability in particular, there's two kinds of insurance. There's claims made coverage and there's occurrence coverage. Occurrence coverage covers an incident that occurs during the policy period. So if I own a policy this year and I get in an accident, my car insurance for this year covers that because the accident occurred this year. Claims made insurance covers claims based on when the claim is presented. So if I got an accident last year, but they made the claim this year, it's this year's policy that covers. So you need an insurance expert to be looking at this as you're buying the business and making sure that there aren't any gaps. If you're shifting from one type to the other, things like that, you want to make sure there's coverage, and there's going to be a huge legal due diligence piece of this in looking at what are all the possible claims out there, making sure that those are all disclosed, they're all listed in the purchase agreement, and that we're doing everything we can to insure around.
No, that's a great take. And then the other thing that I want to put out there to somebody, then I'm going to have to kind of boat suit here. So last question, to put the question out there before I kind of pick on someone to answer it. And that is, what do we think about the price of this business? I mean, these people are bit off 1.4, 1.5 million. The ask price is only 1.75. Yeah, professional practices, accounting practice, architectural practices usually sell at revenue, 0.8 to 1.2 of revenue. This is considerably below that, right? And the question that I wonder is why? Why is this thing so attractively priced? And I don't have a good answer for it. I guess nobody else would either. But how concerned would you be about that? Like, that's the start. And most people that sell are like most people that buy. Like, whatever the ask price isn't necessarily what they expect at. The same way we don't necessarily accept people who accept our first offer. We realize we're going to have to go a little higher. So this guy might potentially take less than 1.75 million. Like, how concerned would you be about that? Let me go to Charles Whitmore for an answer to that question.
But if we're looking at a times EBITDA, I'd be very skeptical about the EBITDA then. I don't remember seeing a line there to replace the surgeon's salary. Yeah, so I imagine if you've got to replace 2 surgeons because he's working 70 hours a week, that's probably going to eat up half the EBITDA. The multiple is going to be much higher. If he's asking 1.75 and the actual EBITDA after proper adjustments is like 500K.
Yeah, well, I think we added a second surgeon. We could do better than, continuing the same level of activity now. Like, I think we'd expect an increase for sure, but I get your point. It's not necessarily going to double up. So they're asking 1.75, right? Revenue-wise, it's right around 3 million, right? So what's that, 6% of revenue? That just seems really low for a professional practice type situation. So I would be concerned about that. And I would definitely be concerned with the fact that Medicaid and Medicare won't pay these people. They have this massive amount of accounts receivable in the book that's not collectible. And so talk about root causes that Irene's already mentioned, we would definitely need to get. So let's vote on this deal. It's gonna hurt me to do this, but I think I might have to red light this deal now. You gonna be mad at me?
No,
Yeah, there's just so many things going on here that, I just really think this is not the kind of deal that you would be able to close without having to put some money in it. There's plenty of deals that we can, we see them all the time. There are max leverage, LBO, zero equity type deals. I just don't think this is one of them. I'm going to go red light 22. Okay, Mahood, Joel, they all beat me to the old head-to-head. I'm seeing a lot of 2-1-3s.
Don, I wanted to hear if Enio has any feedback on this. I don't think he spoke about the business, right?
I didn't speak about what
about this deal. Like, what's his feedback on this deal?
What's Aniwo's feedback? Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Thank you, Carmen. Let's get Aniwo on here. Yeah, well, what am I thinking of? I got my eye too much on the clock here. But we can go over by a few minutes. Aniwo, yeah, it's on to you. What do you like about this deal? And any additional information that I didn't necessarily, get to that may be pertinent to buying decision?
The seller agreed on an annuity deal and no money down. He used to have 3 centers, but currently he has 2. They downsized to 2. And the issue he had with those cases were actually his fault, according to him, because he has arthritis on his wrist. So that's why he lost those cases. So yeah, basically he's ready to do a no money down deal. And yeah, I'm actually meeting with him today.
So you got an accepting on the offer that you showed me, Aniwo? You accepted that offer?
No, we are meeting today. He agreed he was going to do. I spoke with him yesterday. He said, yeah, he can do an annuity deal, but yeah, let's talk today.
Ah, very good. Happy to hear that. Yeah. I would really love to get some feedback from you when you finish talking to him in terms of how you felt after that meeting. I mean, I like the business. I think this guy's a good doctor. I think he's looked after a lot of people. He's busy. He's an absolute workhorse. There's nothing really flaky about this business. It's just, some of the things were kind of potentially red flagged. But if we get to the root causes like Irene said that we ought to, and they kind of fall out in a reasonable way, it could be a very nice deal. I mean, these are real clinics, real patients. This guy's seeing hundreds of people working super hard. Yeah, okay, that's good to know. And based on that, I'm not going 2-1-3. I'm gonna go 2-3-1. Am I alone? No other 2-3-1s out there? Yeah, Otis says 2-3-1. 1-3, 2-1-3, 2-1-3. 1-2-3 says Sean. He likes that sports business. That's a lot. Other 1-3-2. No, 1-2-3. Sorry. Yeah, cool. I thought it would be kind of a little more up in the air, but yeah, it's hard to beat that second business. Hard to bump that out with either one of those number 2. But well done, Aniwo. That's great. I think it's got potential for sure.